this section today, I think most of it is going to be very familiar. A lot of it will be just remembering some things, like what they mean, and then understanding how to work your calculator. Because you probably, the last time you did this, used really cheap calculators like those blue ones. Okay? So, measures of central tendency. There are 3 measures of central tendency. Okay? And that just means a value that describes where? Central. What word do you think is going to be there? Okay, the middle.
What definition is that?
What'd you say?
What's the definition of that?
So the middle of the data. A measure of central tendency is a value that describes the middle of the data. So there's 3 of them: mean, median, and mode.
Is it range one?
Range. So range is not a measure of, it's not a center, but it is a value that we're going to talk about. Okay. So mean. What is the mean?
Is it adding all the numbers and not out?
Okay. So we're going to add all of the numbers and then divide by the total amount, like how many numbers are there? Okay. This is what you usually call the average. Technically, all of these are averages, okay? But the mean is what you consider to be the average, okay? What is the median? Okay, mode is the most frequent. Median is the middle. Okay, so the median, we're going to have to put our numbers in order to be able to calculate it.
Like from least to greatest? Or like...
It's probably not going to matter, but I think it's going to be to our benefit for what we do tomorrow to do least to greatest. Okay, now Joey mentioned the range. Somebody who's not named Joey, how would you describe the range? The measure of the spread. Okay, Vivi, what were you going to say? Well, okay. You were like ready for that. Is this something you're talking about in another class?
In spring or last year.
Okay. How do you calculate it? Biggest minus the smallest. Okay. Oh, this makes me sad. Here are numbers that are the daily high temperature for the past 2 weeks in Orlando. Today, it was in the negatives when we came to school. All right, so this is what we're going to do. In order to help us see a clearer picture, during class I said, where are you going? Okay, let's put these in order. So which one's the smallest?
Smallest one, it is
82. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to cross out 82 and I'm going to write it. The next one,
the biggest is
Well, I don't want the biggest yet. Is the next biggest 86? Okay. And it looks like there's 2 of them. Right?
Yeah.
And then I see an 87. And then I see an 88. Ooh, I see another 88. And another 88. And I'm doing this in pencil. If I accidentally, like, ooh, I forgot one, I can squeeze it in. Okay. Now I see an 89. Oop, 2 89s. I see 3 90s. A 91 and a 92. So by writing down a number and crossing it off, I'm putting these in order and ensuring that I've accounted for every number. Okay, so now let's just talk about the mode real quick because that's the easiest one to pick out. The mode. Which one happens the most?
And 90.
So 88 and 90 both occur twice. And so we can have 2 modes. That is fine. Okay. Now, let's go back to the mean. Oops. In order to calculate the mean, we need to add all of these numbers together and then divide by how many there are. So before we do anything else, could you take some time and add these numbers together? And I want you to put that number right here, and then we'll talk about what the denominator is going to be. Add those numbers together, please. When you get a number, check in with your neighbor to see if they got the same thing. If you didn't, then we need to go back. All right, when we add them together, are you getting 1,236? Okay. Now, if you count, how many numbers are there? There's 14. So in order to calculate the mean, we're going to take 1,236 divided by 14. 88. If we round to the nearest tenth, 88.3. Okay. Now, some of you, there was the compound interest problem on the test on Tuesday. And some of you put everything into your calculator and got it wrong. And I had to take off all of the points because I have no idea what you put into your calculator. Okay? It is possible that sometimes you do the right thing, but you don't type it in correctly. If you do the right thing, I want to give you credit for that. Okay? So when you're calculating the mean, it would be helpful to me if you show me what 2 numbers you divided, just in case you have this right, but you for some reason put it in your calculator wrong and this number doesn't match mine. Okay? Now, the median needs to be the middle number. Okay, well, we have 14 numbers, don't we? Okay, so if I split this in half, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there is my middle. How did you get 88.5?
Because it's between 88 and 89.
Okay. So if my middle is in between two numbers, I need to calculate the average of the two numbers. Okay. If you have an even number of numbers, if you have an even amount of numbers, that is going to happen. If you have an odd amount of numbers, what's going to happen? You're going to have a middle number to just pick out. Okay? All right, how do we get the range? Okay, 92 minus 82. Our range is 10. Okay. Cool. Do you feel like you need another example? No. Or do you feel like, Miss Homan, let's just keep going? Okay, that sounds great. Okay. What did you say? Uh-huh.
Would we technically have to do that? Like if something like that happens, or do we have to do that?
So if you have an even number of values, that's going to happen where you have to take the average between the two. Okay? All right, let's look at number 5. Trevin has 4 grades in his science class so far. 97, 78, 89, and 94. He has a test coming up. What grade would he need so that his overall average is at least 90? I want you to see if you can talk about this at your table and figure it out. I'll give you like 2 minutes to see what you can come up with.
So, hey, we're supposed to be talking. I'm talking to my calculators.
To your calculator? Okay, Viv.
Median is the median. Median is the middle. Median is 136.
What I did was 90 divided. What'd you get? What I did was I took 90 times 5 and I subtracted all the other.
Anybody think they have an answer? Okay. Yeah.
92.
A 92. Okay. So let's talk about how to find average. What would we do to find average? We would add up our 5 scores, divide them by 5, and we would want that to be bigger than or equal to 90. Do you agree? How would we solve this? Could we multiply that 9 over, right? And then what? Could somebody help me? What's 97 plus 78 plus 89 plus 94? It's got to be 300 something. So 358 plus x is greater than or equal to, what's 90 times 5? 450. So x has to be greater than or equal to 92. Nice work, Willa. Okay, so let's talk about an outlier. What is an outlier?
It's like a number that's like way out of like spot on the data.
Okay, so a data value that is out of place, right? It's either much smaller or much larger than the rest of the data. Okay, if our number, if you have one data value that is like way small or way big, it's an outlier. Like if everybody got A's and B's on Tuesday's test, but one person got a 35%, that would be an outlier. Nobody did, okay? But that would be an outlier, okay? All right, now, we need to be able to make the decision, when do we pick the mean versus the median versus the mode to describe the center of our data? Okay? Okay. Which one is going to be the best if we don't have outliers?
Mean.
Okay. If we don't have any outliers, that average, that's going to be our best. Okay. When is the mode going to be best? Huh? I wouldn't necessarily narrow it down to just one repeating, but if we have a lot of values that are repeating, then we're going to want the mode to describe our data the best. Okay. The median is going to be helpful if there are outliers. Okay. And the middle doesn't have a lot of gaps. Okay. But if there's an outlier, that's going to skew our mean. Okay, skew means like pull up or pull down. Okay, if I were to calculate the average test score and everybody got in the 80s and 90s and one person got 35, that's going to bring our average way down. Whereas if I look at the median, that's going to give us a better picture of, okay, half of the class got above an 87 and half of the class got below an 87. That's going to be more accurate. Okay. All right, so we have these three to determine which is the better middle. Mean, median, or mode. So I want you to just look at those briefly and have a conversation at your table about what you think the best measure of the center is. Okay. So what I notice is that all of these are in the 40s and 50s, right? Okay, but then there's like this 26. So that seems like he's kind of like way down below.
So basically, it would be median.
Yes. Which set of data has an outlier? Which set of data has an outlier? The first. $26 is an outlier. So the median is going to be the best for number 7. Which set of data has a bunch of repeated values? The last one. So here our mode. Okay. Lots of repeats. Lots of 80s. Okay. But then number 8, what's going to be the best? The mean's going to be the best because neither one of those things is happening.
How many numbers does it each have for how many numbers are
Like an overwhelming amount.
like, and how much is that?
Like I would say like in number 9, it's like almost half of the data is 80. Okay.
It's like more than half of.
I would say like if it's more than a third of the data, you're probably pretty good. Okay, so this is what I want you to do. On page 3, you're going to do page 3 and page 4. But on page 3, you can skip 2 of the problems. You get to pick. Okay? But then on page 4, I want you to do all of page 4. Okay? So you can skip 2 problems on page 3 and then do all of page 4.